we're expected to hear arguments on that immunity question that may or may not unlock a trial for Jack Smith on April 25th. When might the court rule?
Well, that's really one of the big questions. It's both will Donald Trump win and how quickly will, if he loses, how quickly will that happen? Yeah. The court has expedited arguments in the case somewhat, but there's no assurance they'll rule before the end of their term at the end of June. And if they wait until the end of June, then the timeline starts to get really tight, and it's not clear whether a trial can go forward before the election.
Well, and it's worth pointing out that the arguments are on April 25th, and if this timetable stands, that we learned about today, we'll be 10 days into the criminal trial in New York by the time the Supreme Court is hearing arguments in the immunity question. Does that have any bearing on the way the justices are likely to think about this case?
Well, it shouldn't, but they're human beings. They see the news. They know the atmospherics. And, interestingly, one of the issues here is that Jack Smith at the Supreme Court hasn't said a word about the upcoming election. He's not urging the Supreme Court, rule quickly because I need to get this trial before the election happens. Donald Trump is talking about it. But in terms of whether the Supreme Court will feel any urgency to get this ruling resolved so the trial can go forward, it's basically, it would be doing that sort of on its own rather than because of anything that Jack Smith says.
Important arguments that will be following tomorrow at the Supreme Court. I know you will be, Greg, on a case that involves reducing access to mifepristone, the abortion pill. What are you going to be listening for?
Yeah, so this will be the first abortion argument since 2 years ago when the court overturned the constitutional right to abortion in the Dobbs case. Yeah. This involves the pill that is used in more than half of U.S. abortions now. A lower court restricted access, and the most important aspect of that from a practical standpoint is it made it so that the pill could not be obtained by mail if that ruling goes into effect. So huge practical consequences for American women, depending on how the case comes out. And of course, huge potential political consequences, given that we've seen how important abortion is at the polls.